Welcome to Northern Powerhouses Business Success Stories, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what drives them forward. And today I'm delighted to have with us Hannah-Natalie Hosanee, the Manager Director at Consume Comms. So Hannah-Natalie, thanks so much for coming on board and spending some time with us. And if you'd first like to introduce yourself to the audience in terms of who you are, what your company does and how you help your clients, that would be great.
Thanks for having me. So I am the MD of Consume Comms. We literally have just turned 6 years old this past week, which is quite interesting, you know, kind of going into year 3 of a global pandemic. I'm proud that we've managed to keep going, and we operate across Leeds. I was based in Leeds for the last decade, recently moved across to Manchester. So we've got a presence in Manchester and also way up north in Northumberland. As a business, we pride ourselves in creating comms that foster communities. So my background is I ran a creative community GLUG, which is part of the global creative community with chapters in 35 countries. I ran the Yorkshire division for 6 years. So most people kind of know my face from running and hosting that creative event around Leeds. We also get involved in things like Empowering Women with Tech, the International Festival, and BEMA. So I'm a Yorkshire chairperson for BEMA, and everything we kind of work around is around storytelling for brands and just ensuring that they're kind of being their most authentic selves with using their own voices, really. So we kind of help businesses that are struggling to, you know, on the blank page of how am I going to write this social media? We take it back a step and just say, you know, social should be social. It's a conversation about yourself, and kind of encourage them to create communities over kind of customer bases. You know, think of those people, what value you're offering. So we're very much kind of holistic marketing through from website technical, social media and events when we had them that are slowly coming back now. So that's us in a nutshell. Alongside that, I also run a couple of communities, like I've mentioned, and I have a little side hustle of a food business, Little Yellow Rice Co., which is all around my Chinese, Malaysian, Peranakan heritage.
Wow. Wowzers. So you must be a very busy lady, I would imagine.
Yes.
So much going on. That sounds fascinating. I'm a big fan of Southeast Asia, so it'd be good to talk more about that.
We could talk for hours then.
Well, 100%. It's somewhere I spent a bit of time with many years ago, and I'm dying to get back there fairly soon.
Same.
Hopefully, when all is over. So, how did you? I mean, just a little bit of style. How did you get into this particular business, and why this one, or and what drives you forward with it?
Yeah. So I did a degree in design, and then realized I wasn't very good at design, and sideways it's kind of into marketing, and I was kind of in marketing, in-house marketing. I didn't work agency side, actually. I was an in-house marketer for about 10 years, well, predominantly in Yorkshire. Actually, my whole career was in Yorkshire. I started at Simply Biz, which was at the Gal Farm. I think it's John Smith's now. That was my first move north. And then I went into the lift industry, which I absolutely loved. It was a great opportunity because they really just let me do what I want with the budget, and kind of being a 26-year-old marketer, it was fantastic because they let me do events, they let me host exhibitions at Excel. I had a great 5 years there in Bradford. And then I went into a telecoms business, and then into medtech. And then I kind of reached a point where I was running quite a few community events across Leeds, and having a full-time job was I was trying to juggle the two. And now I'm an employee, I kind of realize it's a bit annoying when your member of staff keeps disappearing to say, can I have half a day because I need to go and like set up this event. So I got made redundant, which I think a lot of people are in that situation. I got made redundant, thought, right, it's make or break. I'm gonna just go for it and see if I can build my own agency based on my kind of like passion for like community stuff and see where that goes. I've got enough contacts from community work. Let's see if I can actually use that narrative to create my own business. And yeah, it kind of grew from there. And I kind of specialize in tech marketing. Most of our clients have either work on a tech platform or were tech recruiters, digital consultants. So I've kind of fallen into that side of working around tech, but I really enjoy it because a lot of people shy away from tech marketing because you have to understand the language. And but I think our team kind of like it. We kind of like the challenge of, like, if we don't understand something, it's all part of the marketing, isn't it? Kind of asking the right questions and unpacking it. So it's kind of like a pure marketing thing to do, instead of shying away from it. So yeah, I don't think there's many tech marketing agencies. I think they're coming up now. We don't do kind of sexy advertising branding. We do very gritty tech marketing around digital transformation agencies and explaining to different sectors how that works for them. And I said we've survived 6 years, and here we are, still going.
Well done, really well done. And yeah, I was made redundant from my first job, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me, I have to say. It was absolutely the best thing, and I look back with it with a lot of pleasure, because it was if I hadn't, I think my whole career would have been totally different. So I'm really pleased. So fascinating the tech side of things, but looking back over the 6 years, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
I think definitely I would say the biggest challenge is the business side, because when you set up any kind of consultancy, your expertise is in, your skill set. Like for me, it's marketing, but I wasn't equipped to run a business, tax, HR, leadership. Running a team is very different when there's no one above you to defer to. I think those are the biggest challenges, and the business side of that, because you're never, if you're specializing in a particular area, skills and expertise are rarely business management side. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is the actual day-to-day running the business, and that's something you kind of learn on the job and make a lot of mistakes. And I think the first 3 years you make all the mistakes. You make them every day, but you get a little bit better at managing them.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, we often find, in what I do, that most businesses are started by people that are good at what they do. They're not necessarily good at running a business at what they do, and it's understanding there's quite a big gap between those two things. And so there's obviously a lot of learning needs to happen. And what would you say are some of the biggest learnings that you've had over these last 6 years in business?
I think it's probably one a lot of people say, but delegating, especially when you set up as a consultant. And then things grow, you're so used to managing everything, and I think that's one of the biggest things, is learning to delegate. And definitely for me now, I am of that opinion. I know it will never be the same as if I handle that particular task or project, because it's my business, it's my baby. But I think I'm proud of my team, that they're good enough that they appreciate it's a small team, so they kind of understand that we're all in it together. If the business does well, they do well. But delegating is really hard to hand over stuff, especially because it's like what we do. The nature of how we work is like people-based communities, stories, and you kind of get really kind of embedded into someone else's business when you're telling their story. So it's hard to want to pass that over. I think it's also learning to kind of not have perfection. Efficiency over perfection is a hard one.
I love. I was going to ask for quotes later, but I love that one. Efficiency over perfection. It is. It's understanding that it doesn't have to be as good as somebody. Doesn't have to do something as good as me, but good enough. I think that's one of the big challenges, isn't it? It's. I always say to people, they don't have to do it as well as you, because if we're the expert, that's fine. But if we train them up to do it well enough for the client's satisfaction and delight, then that's great.
Work in progress. Everything's work in progress.
Yes, absolutely. I think that'll be me till for a very long time.
Exactly.
So, who or what might have been sort of some of the biggest influences in your career, if any?
I think it's definitely the people around me. So, especially in my career in Yorkshire, I've been really, really lucky to work with some really great women, which is it's an unusual position, because all the industries I've worked in have been very male orientated. I went from financial services to engineering into telecoms and then tech, but actually in that I was really lucky to have some really, really great women work around me. So Natasha Salem, who runs Empowering Women. She's like a great cheerleader. She will always, even though she's like very high profile with a job at Amazon, she'll always shout and cheerlead me. And I'm, you know, it's people like that that just remind you that it doesn't matter where you go, you have to kind of make sure that you're also offering the same opportunities and support for everyone behind you. So I think having people like her and, you know, Amy Ballsy, we've worked on so many projects together. She always remembers me. And I think it's having those people as an example when I was coming into consultancy and working on my own, to be around people like that, to kind of see how they're doing it, and being personable. You don't have to be, you know, too much ego. You know, you can still be very personal and be successful and professional. And I learned that from having those kind of women around me.
Yes, I've seen over time that many of the most successful people I've ever met have been incredibly humble and really willing to help anybody else. And it's a really strange thing that really they're willing to help, and yet often we don't approach them because we think they're too busy or they wouldn't want to, or those sorts of things. And I was lucky enough many years ago to meet a guy called Sterry Matthews, who was the first Welsh billionaire. And he, you know, and he was so humble. And I just told him about my sort of small little business that I've grown, and he said that it's absolutely brilliant. He said, I only tell people about what I do just because I want to help them develop and grow, but there's no, you know, there was no I don't know, hierarchical issue. He just really wanted to help, and it was a really great guy. And I've seen that time and time again with successful people. So I totally get what you're saying. So have you picked up, as I said, slightly, I love, I'm going to remember that one, efficiency over perfection, but any other favorite quotes or sayings that you live or work by?
I think I don't really have any kind of sayings. I have my own little sayings. So we're mainly a female business. So we have little funny sayings like we have big hoop attitude. You know, but when you put your big hoops in, you have to approach it with that kind of big hoop attitude and energy. So we have things like that that aren't so applicable for our members of staff, but it's very much a consume com saying. And I'm, me being from Kent, I am very much the kind of person who wears big gold hoops and has a Mockney accent and enjoys that.
I love that. I'm going to remember that one. I think I'm sure we can make that applicable. Big hoop attitude. I'll go for that. And what obviously we're talking about the last 6 years, and it's been obviously a bit of a roller coaster for many people. What would you say you've learned about yourself over that period?
I think it's definitely, I always thought we were quite resilient, but I think being the level of resilience that we had to have over the last two years, or coming into 3, and the ability, like, just to really, I wasn't never sure about my leadership skills, and over the last couple of years I really had to dig deep on that, because you're supporting the team in a way that you never had to before. You know, we had to look at things like supporting their mental health, flexibility for work, and everything. I think a lot of the job became more managing how the work facilitated their mental health, and you know, some of them needed to have more time off, whereas others wanted to be busy all the time. And I had to kind of like really look at people skills. You know, I'm used to kind of hosting events and being able to chat to people, but like actually looking at things like, you know, where they feel you've got staff that are a bit more vulnerable, was a skill I didn't think I would have had to do before. So I think that was probably when I went on courses. I did all the online courses and stuff because I was a bit lost. I was like, I don't know how to help them, and you know, you can see people are struggling, and it's again, it's not something you think you'd have to deal with when you're running an agency and working in marketing. But I think a lot of small businesses were in that position where you had to start looking at, you know, the wider spectrum of, I guess it's HR, you know, that you didn't have to do before. But yeah, definitely trying to find ways to have those conversations with the team without prying, and find the right balance of being able to work out, are they okay and how can you help, was a challenge.
Yeah, I can totally align with that. I think you know, I feel that every you know, just about everybody's mental robustness has probably dropped over time. So then, you know, sort of above going into real health issues, but just the ability to deal with challenges has reduced, I think, in myself. as well as other people around that I've seen around, and it's being, as a leader, as you rightly say, being understanding of that and working towards helping people. And I think we've still got plenty of things to work on. You know, although we might be out of lockdown, I don't think we're out of the implications and the ramifications of this for a very long time.
No, I mean, absolutely not. But I think what we've gone into this year in a completely different attitude. We're so much more positive and settled because we just feel like we've seen how bad it can get, and
Yes.
we put things in place to get through that. So now we kind of know, like, well, if it gets bad, we know what we're going to do. We know what we can do, which is a good, because the last, like going into the last New Year, I think we were really struggling because we just thought, well, we thought it would only be 2 weeks, we thought it'd be 6 weeks, so it's 6 months, and it just kept going. But I think this year we're like, it's very much like a different attitude. It's the most positive attitude I've kind of seen us go into a new year for a while now.
Yeah, it's great. I think the whole thing around resilience is really key, and learning that from getting through. I've been through a couple of recessions over time, and getting through something is a massive win. Even if we just survive at a base level, it's still a massive win, because unfortunately a lot of people don't and haven't. So getting through that. In fact, my one of my favorite quotes is I think it's a Japanese proverb, which is fall down 7 times but get up 8. And I think that's, as that's held me in good stead for a long time. It's not how often I fall down, but it's how often I get up that's most important.
Yeah.
So I'm just really keen to say what you feel about the future, what the future looks like for you and Consume Comms, and what challenges you may face as you move forward.
I think, well, one of the biggest things that I've personally kind of looked at over the last couple of years was kind of looking at representation. So we've always been involved in terms of representation for women in tech and just general role models to ensure, that there are those figures that we can look up to across the board, especially being a female agency owner and a person of color. There's not a lot of them. So that's always been a key for me. And I was really fortunate to use my time over the pandemic to engage with loads of groups. So I've got some really good friends at BC, so the British East and Southeast Asian Network,
Right.
Asian Leadership Collective. So for us, we made the decision that this year we are going to kind of change direction with the business a little bit. So we're going to focus on supporting brands that are looking to communicate about authenticity and find their voice in those lesser represented areas. So we're going to be looking at EC businesses to look to support them more, based on the journey I've been on for the last 2 years, really. So I think there'll be a lot of challenges involved with that, especially our team is very mixed. So it's for them navigating some of those things that they don't feel they might have the synergy with, and me making sure they're equipped to confidently deal with the new kind of clients that are going to come through. So I think that's going to be the challenge for the next year. We're just going to reshape the business a little bit, still have our tech focus, but we're also looking to bring in a new arm that's focused on branding and communications for the EC market.
Wow, sounds like very exciting. It's a very exciting future. Well, it's been great talking to you, Hannah. I've got a couple of last questions for you. I'm really interested to see your thoughts on these. And the first one is, what would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now?
I think it's around authenticity. It's one of my favorite words. Is, you have to trust you. If you're going into business, the business brand is going to be you. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. They really struggle with, like, they always think when you go into business, you have to represent a certain way. You have to be very professional, or, you have to be like this person that looks like a business person. But the biggest value of your business is who you are and the things that kind of set you apart, your values and what you're passionate about. That will take you through the hard times, definitely.
Brilliant. I'd 100% support that. I think it's a lesson to learn, isn't it? But we are unique, and that's what makes us different. And being ourselves makes things far more easy than trying to be somebody else. I don't know why people would. I know why I did over time. I know I probably have done.
We all did it. We all did it.
Absolutely. It's and then you realise, yes, it's no. I think being me is okay, and it's good. And lastly, I'm really keen to know your thoughts of what advice would you give to an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and give that advice?
I think I have always taken every opportunity that came my way. My mum says I'm a nightmare for it. She says you're always up to something, and she has said that to me since I was 18. But I think
Brilliant.
the only difference would be in taking all those opportunities is not to wait so long, because I think there have been periods maybe earlier in my career when I stayed in that job, and like I say, a lot of us we wouldn't have taken the leap into self-employment without redundancy. And I think if I'd have had a little bit more confidence to take that leap. But the biggest difference for me was to find the network earlier, find that network of people, because I was a little bit shy to find that professional business network and go out
Yep.
and find people and ask questions, even though I'm quite confident. But I think that was a big turner for me, is when I started finding groups and finding other people that were in the same boat or had a business. So I think my advice to that 18-year-old person would be, you've got your social groups, but also go and find mentors, go and find, people that are doing the job that you think you want to do, and then you'll know if that's the job you want to do. And, like you fail fast, don't you? And then you move on to the next thing.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Great advice. Wise words. Well, Hannah-Natalie, that's been really wonderful. Thank you so much for your thoughts and views, and we really wish you well for the future, and it'd be
Thank
great
you.
to maybe catch up in another 6-12 months
Yeah.
and see what you've achieved, but also what's next, because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure from speaking to you there'll be something new on the horizon at that point as well.
Hopefully not another business. I'm all right with two at the moment.
Well, thank you so much.